There's been quite the controversy about the Final Fantasy VII Remake being split up, making it episodic. Everyone's crying that Square Enix has screwed it up already and condemning them for making that decision. Some people claiming that they're only doing it for money to milk the fans. But how is anyone not surprised? But I'm not asking if you're surprised by the fact that they're trying to milk the fans for all they're worth by making it episodic, because I think they've done that quite enough with Advent Children, Crisis Core, Before Core, Crisis or whatever, and all the other spin-offs like Dirge of Cerberus. I think they milk the fans enough. But how are you not surprised it's being broken up into parts due to its sheer size? Have you not noticed that the size of games has increased exponentially? They've gone from an average 7.4 gigs in the 7th gen for an average 8-hour game to a ballooning 25 to 50 gigs for the same length for the current generation. A Blu-ray can hold up to 25 to 128 gigs of data depending on the layers. Do people not remember how everyone complained about these next-gen systems and their games installing and eating up all that hard drive space? Games are just getting bigger now. With the more realism and smoother look they're giving everything, do you really think that all those extra polygons and special effects are not going to take up any space? What about all the voice acting or orchestrated music? All the animation to make things lifelike to immerse you into the game? There's people comparing, saying that Metal Gear Solid 5 was able to do their game in one release. Metal Gear Solid 5 is around 8 hours and about 30 gigs in size. It's also an open world sandbox type of game. They can reuse assets. Sure, the enemies may have different faces, but they share similar bodies. Same goes for Fallout 4, a game that's about 25 gigs in size, and gives you several hours of content, so what's the deal there? Fallout 4 reuses a lot of assets, more so than Metal Gear Solid 5. You can also sink hours and hours of gameplay into the crafting and settlement building. There's lots of things that you can do to distract yourself with. The game is also running on an engine that should have been put to rest after Skyrim, and the game world also shares a theme and art design throughout the whole thing. And I heard that the main story is only about 15 hours long, but I've yet to finish the game because I'm doing a lot of other stuff. Games like The Witcher 3 have also been brought up. It too is an open world where assets can be reused more easily. Additionally, the world shares its own art style. I'll admit that I haven't played The Witcher 3 yet, so I can't viably make this claim, but given that most open world games reuse assets to save space, it makes sense, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm just guessing based on videos and screenshots that I've seen. But what I'm getting at here is that Fallout 4 and The Witcher 3 have a very distinct art style, either being the post-apocalyptic 50s future looking of Boston or something from the Middle Ages. It's all a cohesive look to make the world more realistic. Final Fantasy VII, however, has a unique look for every area that you go to. The city of Midgar looks different from the slums, which looks different from Cosmo Canyon, which looks different from Gold Saucer, which looks different from Mutai, which looks different, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Every area has its own unique style. They can't reuse parts of the Midgar slums for the Northern Crater or use Golden Saucer parts for Rocket Town. All those different looking areas being fully rendered in 3D is going to take up a lot of space. Remaking Midgar isn't going to be easy. Remember how we traveled through Sector 6 and Sector 7 areas? And there's the Shinra Tower, and if they're going to expand on the game as well, that's going to take up a lot of space. Who knows, the city of Midgar may be as big as The Witcher 3's game world. We only remember what we saw in the original, which in essence wasn't much. We didn't see much. We only saw what they could show us with the limitations of PS1 technology. People are forgetting that there's still limitations today, and it mostly has to do with storage. If Square was going to show us everything which they pretty much said that they're going to, you know it's going to take up a lot of space. And for reference, Final Fantasy XIII is about 25 gigs in size, and that game was linear as hell for the most part. It's even larger on PC, around 60 gigs. But let's look at the original Final Fantasy VII. It was a huge game for its time, spanning 3 discs for a total of 1.4 gigs. The backgrounds were just pre-rendered still images laid over a bare-bones 3D environment to give you the illusion of a realistic world. Back in the PlayStation 1 days, they didn't need to render the back of that shanty town in the slums because you weren't going to see it. You didn't have control of the camera, it stayed at a fixed location. The only thing that were made of polygons were the character and monster models, the battle areas, and the world map. Those were all the same game depending on the area and the overworld. So there was very little full 3D there, and that game was on 3 discs. Final Fantasy VIII and IX went to 4 discs because they were more detailed, and those details take up space. And looking at the recent trailer, you can see that you're not running on a still image. You're in a full 3D environment, a very highly detailed 3D environment. Something that Square Enix is very well known for when it comes to their Final Fantasy games. You think all those details don't take up any space at all? You're gravely wrong if you think so. Take it from someone who's worked with 3D modeling programs. Shit gets big and big quick the more it's detailed. You also need to take into account for how much Blu-ray discs cost. A single layer 25 gig disc is about 60 cents. A dual layer 50 gig is around 3, and a triple layer 100 gigabyte is $10. So yeah, manufacturing the game is a factor that they're going to have to take in. And right now they're saying that Final Fantasy XV's world is going to be 10 times larger than that of Grand Theft Auto V and The Witcher 3. 2 games that fit on a dual layer Blu-ray and are about 35 gigs in size minimum. And 35 times 10 is 350. So Final Fantasy XV might be 350 gigs in size at a minimum. So it might be multiple discs. If it's just one, then it's either a 100 gig disc or it fetches the remaining amount from the internet and downloads it. And given that Final Fantasy VII is about a 60-hour game, that's a lot of dialogue. More so than your average 8-hour game. That's a lot of audio files for every single character that you're going to come into contact with, which in turn is a lot more space. And the dialogue changes depending on who you have in your party. So for every cutscene that happens, each character is going to need their own unique dialogue voice, as it seems to be the route they're going. I think the problem stems from us being so used to having most games on one disc or just being a single download. We're more used to the Western-styled RPGs like Skyrim and Fallout and The Witcher. We haven't had much in terms of big JRPGs. The last biggest one was Final Fantasy XIII, and its 2 sequels. So if you think about it, that game was episodic as it was broken up into 3 parts, and you needed to play all 3 games to get the full story. And no one really had an issue with that. They had issues with the story itself and gameplay, but not the fact that it was broken up into 3 parts. We know that Square Enix puts a lot of presentation into their games. A lot of it. They're usually the most visually stunning games of their time, having some of the best orchestrated music and having the most dialogue and story-driven games when it comes to their Final Fantasy series. If this was the work of EA, Activision, or Ubisoft, I would have my torch and pitchfork in arms with everyone else, calling bullshit and saying that they're making it episodic because they want more money. Because look at how EA handled the new Star Wars Battlefront game. 4 maps, multiplayer only, and a $50 season pass, and they plan on releasing a new one next year? At least Square Enix was up front. They said that it was going to be a very large game and that making it episodic will not only solve their space concerns, but it's also going to save them on manufacturing costs, and it'll allow them to get it to the fans sooner by releasing it in parts, because the fans have been very patient for this remake. And if they were to do a single release, it probably wouldn't come out until 2018 or later, and would probably have to be on an external hard drive or several discs. And since Square Enix said that they're keeping true to the original, they're keeping everything intact and are not going to condense it at all. All the quirky things are going to be in it. All the optional stuff is going to be there. They're going to add in stuff to make each release have enough content to be their own standalone game. Recently, Famitsu leaked that we're going to be able to fully explore Midgar, and that they're going to do more development on Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. I'm going to guess that there's going to be 3 episodes, like how the original was 3 discs, or possibly 5 at the most. 2 for the first and 2 for the second, and 1 for the third, because the third disc of the original only contained the side quests and the last part of the main story, which was just the final battle. But you may be getting ready to say that we don't need all that fidelity. We don't need voice acting or cutscenes or whatever you're going to say that we don't need. But all we need is the gameplay. So you're saying that you don't want them to put effort into this remake. Then just play the original. Don't buy the remake if you don't think we need all the extra stuff that they're adding in to make it an epic game. Which is hypocritical to say that games don't need all this stuff when those who say that play games with all the extra stuff in it and love it. Sure, we don't need all that extra fluff, but you know what? It's nice to have. That's the point of a luxury. It's not needed, but it's nice to have. Yeah, it sucks that the game is being broken up into several parts, but they recently said that part 1 is ready to go, so it shouldn't take forever. And they said that they have several people from the Kingdom Hearts team helping to work it. And on the topic of the battle system, it seems to be a combination of the Active Time battle and the Kingdom Hearts series, leaving some people able to criticize that abandoning the active time battle combat is satiating Square Enix's need to modernize everything. Criticizing them for changing the battle system is grasping for straws at this point. This goes back to what I said in my Sonic problem rant, where people will use Sonic as a way to vent frustration on other games by taking a minor thing and making a mountain out of a molehill. No one dares criticize Bethesda for the archaic game engine that they've been using for Oblivion, Fallout 3, New Vegas, Skyrim, all the way up to Fallout 4. Good games, yes, but they feel very dated. A friend of mine had said that Fallout 3 was Oblivion with guns and that Skyrim was Fallout with swords. If Square Enix stuck with the same turn-based combat where each fight took place in its own little arena, it would get criticized for having an old battle system and feeling archaic and wouldn't be the remake we've all been waiting for. And this is a remake, not a remastering. They're not just throwing in prettier graphics over the old game, so of course they're going to do things differently. And what's wrong with the way that they're doing the battle system? Would you rather have them go the Final Fantasy XIII route or something a little more fun? Saying that it's bad because it's different is a stupid thing to say. You haven't even played the game yet. Same goes for those saying that Square Enix is going to screw it up because it's Square Enix and they're not the same company they were from 1997. Well, no shit, they're not the same company from 1997. No game company is the same from 97 or further back. But you want to know something? Unlike a lot of the American game companies, the Japanese ones at least try to learn from their mistakes. Sega is trying to correct themselves. Square has been trying to fix their issues, and Nintendo is trying to dig themselves out of the hole they got themselves into. It's not like EA, who are not only at rock bottom, but showing signs of digging when it comes to managing their games. Because we know that EA is the king of excuses. They've said, oh, games shouldn't be $60, but not our games. Our games are fully worth $60, and they're worth the $50 season pass. I mean, with EA, you could see the bullshit spewing out of their mouths. And they don't even try to hide it. But at least companies like Square, Sega, and Nintendo are at least showing effort in trying to fix the wrongs. And to wrap this up, I've said before that a remake of the game would not be that hard. I should probably clarify now. I meant that it would not be hard now because the original game exists. They know what it looks like and the story is already written. There's little in terms of planning that needs to be done since they already have a base to work off of. And with that said, have some faith in Square Enix. They can't screw this up. And I'm not saying they can't screw it up because I'm not saying it's an easy task. It's because this is going to be one of the most expensive games ever made. The original was the most expensive game ever made for its generation, and when figured for inflation, it's the third most expensive game ever made. They can't afford to screw it up. And don't forget to check out my paid sponsor Gemmer, the social network for collectors to share their collections with others and even buy, sell, trade, or even learn more about the things they love to collect. It's free to sign up, so click that link in the description box and share your collections with the world.